the videos. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the part 5 of Angular Team Live Coding. Today we'll continue working on the leaderboard of nonsense. In the last part we made the authentication with and the login. Today we will focus on making an update to the authenticated user. So yeah, do you guys have something to add?
I'm going to share the link to our latest deployed version. And once we made a few changes right at the beginning, I think we should deploy a new version of Nauany.
I think there are some noises on the noise on the Twitch stream. Do you guys still hear the noise?
I think it's coming from your mic, Ilyass.
Oh. Now?
I think it's coming from your mic too. I don't hear it anymore.
Okay. Do you still hear the... I'm muting myself now. Now it's good?
Well, now it's good because Ilyass muted himself, so that's why you don't hear anything. Okay, let's go on, I think.
So I'm gonna be muted all the live stream.
I don't know if you can. Maybe there's a configuration where you set up like there's a minimum sound that should trigger sound to your microphone. I don't know. I don't know how this is called. Anyways, I think we should start even with the sound issues.
I'm gonna switch to the Mac source, but while I'm doing that, you can start. I sent you the link, right? For the live share.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can start explaining what we did in the login service.
So are you following my screen?
Okay.
If you do, that would be helpful. Okay, so you guys can hear me? I think so. Okay. So we refactored the login service to, let me see the changes here. Okay, that's focused. So we had a user observable as a behavior subject, and we were listening to changes when we had the sign in with pop-up event when we logged in. So sign in with pop-up function would return a promise, and then when that promise completed, that's when we would understand that the login had been fulfilled, and then we would update the user observable. We had the set persistent method to understand when the user if the user refreshed the page, it would uh, Firebase would understand that and would get us the value for the user, the current logged in user, and then we would update the user observable. So we were subscribing to that promise turned into observable using the from operator. But then we understood what was going on and that we only needed to actually listen to the auth state. That was an observable. That's an observable that is provided by Angular Fire, and we just need to listen to that and set the persistence as a configuration option to Firebase. So setting that up triggers Angular Firebase to do all the magic it does. We don't need to care about manually triggering anything. We just need to listen to the auth state provided by Angular Firebase with the authentication that's being injected and that we are configuring in our app module. So in the same way, we are using this auth object injected into our class, login service class, and we're using it to both set the persistence and trigger the sign in with pop-up method. So it's just a way more simple way to do the same thing, and we don't need to write obscure observables for that. Yeah, if anyone has any questions about how this works, let us know. Yeah. Also, mind that there's no documentation about this, so that's why it was hard to understand what was going on.
Is the sound good now? Still?
Yeah, it's way better. I don't hear any crackling or any weird sound.
Okay, cool. Yeah, about the about the auth service, we had this complicated solution, but in fact it was too simple to do it. We would gain a lot of time if this was available in the documentation, but now it does make more sense when how to use it. You just listen to the authentication state and then sign in with pop-up. It's much simpler. Okay, we should commit this, and what's the next step?
So I think we should commit this and send that to and deploy that so we can see this working or show this working.
Okay. Is there an emoji for a core commit message? What's the appropriate one? It's just to introduce new features.
So I think Wade said that you should try to speak louder because your sound is lower.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, fixing the with Firebase. Okay, it's committed. Let's discard this. Okay. So let's deploy. Here is the link. I'm gonna send it on the chat. Go ahead and authenticate yourself, guys. What's the next step? So for the authentication,
Do you want to serve it so we can all see that working?
yeah, that's a good idea. Yay, here is our leaderboard. Non-working leaderboard. Okay, logged in, and now when I refresh, it does know that I already logged in, and it displays the picture. So yeah, so now we will need to add a pop-up or something for update the profile, or should we start with the page for updating the profile first and then see how to implement the
Okay.
the
So I
pop-up?
think we should only display the description, display name once the user is logged in, and that shouldn't be available all the time as it is right now. We should create a route for it. Could be a profile or user route, and then once we have that set up, the user clicks on the image, the profile image at the top left, and then that leads the user to the user component that is showing the description, display name form. And
Okay.
then once we have that working, we're going to actually connect to Firebase to update that information and fetch that information from the server.
Okay, so let's create a route for that. We already have a leaderboard route. We should probably add another one for update user or user profile. We have this
I
user.
I
Yeah.
think that should be inside leaderboard for now, doesn't it?
Um,
What does the leaderboard route loads? Doesn't it load the leaderboard module?
yeah, like something like this, leaderboard update profile.
And doesn't that include the navigation and sidebar and everything? So I think it does. So I think we should put the user component inside the leaderboard module instead.
Okay. We already have a standalone component to update the profile.
Yeah. So you only
Yeah.
have one route, but the user should be inside that module, and I think it is already. It's
Yeah,
just the folder is outside.
outside because it's a standalone component.
Okay.
That's why I
So
updated it
when
outside.
then we add the component to a new route in leaderboard routing module.
Okay, let's see how can we uh, add a standalone component to the route, because I never did this before. Let's discover how it works. Okay, so path, it's gonna be update profile. profile, and here should we do load component?
To follow RESTful conventions, shouldn't it be like profile/update? Maybe.
To follow what?
Like, shouldn't it be profile/update? To follow REST.
No, we have.
Like profile/delete, profile/update, all of that.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
gonna be
I don't.
leaderboard/profile/update. I think it makes more sense to have leaderboard/update profile.
Okay.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah, it's not an API, so I don't have a strong opinion on
Yeah.
what the
In the front end, it's okay.
yeah if that's readable and people understand what's going on and where it would lead you in the application, I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
I think we have this load component. Probably it's the one responsible for loading.
Do you need load component to do that?
I don't know.
I think maybe load component is
Should we
for
put only a component for lazy
standalone
loading?
components.
Yeah, but for
Yeah,
the
just
user.
component. If it's not lazy loaded, just component would be enough, I think.
Let's try. Um, User component. This should compile.
I think that should work.
Yeah, it's working.
Nice.
That's good. That's nice to
But
know.
there's an issue with that. Shouldn't it load the
top bar?
Yeah, everything.
Um, we don't have that here.
There should be a
router outlet here.
Router outlet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Inside
so
main, I guess.
inside main, probably we need to remove this and do our router outlet here. But
we should probably remove app game leaderboard and set up a route for it.
Let me just double check the router again. No, we will have I think this will not work. This will not work. We need to have it inside of the leaderboard path. Something like this. Children.
Inside the leaderboard?
Yeah. Like this. In order to have the...
Yeah, I never set up this way.
In order to have the top bar and the sidebar. Yeah.
Okay. So let's add a link to the profile now. I think that should be enough.
In the login, what's the component?
Yeah, it's login. Yeah, it's login component.
Okay, so it should be here. Oops. Router link. Do we
We
need
should
to import the router module?
common module. Uh, we need to.
Is this available in the common module or the router module?
Yeah, we could try it. I don't know.
Okay, let's see.
Can you go back there?
Where?
HTML. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I think that should not be a button. That should be a hyperlink. Um, that should be a anchor tag instead of a button.
For accessibility,
Yeah.
um, we can't put an image inside a button.
No, the issue is that since we are changing the route of the application, we should be using the anchor tag.
If I can spell this. I think we need to update the, no, there is no CSS here, okay.
Yeah, we might need to. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I need to fix this. Let's see if it's working.
Nice.
Oh, it's not.
There's probably some cascading going on.
Let's give it a, not an absolute bad, but
did it work? Didn't see
no.
it. Oh, right.
That's weird.
So maybe you need to import the
Yeah, the router module.
router module.
But it didn't give me an exception or something.
No, it doesn't because it is valid HTML. If you do wrap your router link with square brackets, then it's gonna give you an error. Because then, can you go back to the code?
Router link not valid attribute. Yeah, you did it. Okay.
Yeah. So I added the square brackets, and then Angular is trying to use the actual directive.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Otherwise, it's just a valid HTML. So
Oh,
it is good to. So now it should be a string. So
why you have square brackets around some properties but not others?
so in this case, this is an Angular directive. So we're binding this directive to this element. And in this case, this is just HTML. That's the difference. And this is a string inside, or it could be an expression.
I see. You're basically saying that it's Angular logic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Angular is going to identify that and inject the router link directive into this element and make its magic.
And can be used also in attribute binding. Look, you can bind, for example, class and add a custom class name here, for example. And on the right, you will have an expression. When it's truthy, you will see this custom class on the class.
Ilyass, your sound is a bit low
Oh.
to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not clear. I don't know.
Okay, let me just change the. Okay, while I'm doing this again, I'm gonna follow you.
Maybe your microphone is distant?
Okay. You can add the logic while I'm verifying this.
I don't understand what you just said. Sorry. Let me just test what's going on.
Is it better now?
So it
No.
is working, but Firebase threw an error. Oh, okay, just threw an error because of something else. Let me just check why this is not round. The image is not. Okay. Hey.
Is the sound now better than earlier?
Your voice still a little bit low.
Too low? Okay.
Okay, so what do you think we should do next now? So it is working. We're being directed into the correct component. I think we should start working in the logic that will fetch information from the Firebase, Angular Firebase, and so we can either update the user information or fetch that user information. So we have this empty user service, and we have the user component that has a form, and we have this empty method that's triggered on update. Let's see. So button, so form submission triggers on update method, and on update we will. I think we need to. We will use our service, right? So we need to pass information to our service. So our service handles Firebase stuff, right? So on update, I'm just going to get the form data for now and send that to a method on our user service. I'm gonna call this update user, or just update. We're going to inject I don't know what we need to inject. What is the Firebase service? Probably different from the login, but authentication. Do you know what Angular Fire service we should be using?
Is the sound better now? I'm still struggling with the sound.
I don't understand what you're talking. I think you
Noise
should
is
go
gone.
back to your previous microphone.
Okay.
You had the weird sound going on in the background, but I could listen to you very, very clearly. I think we were fetching some information from Angular Fire
Firebase.
somewhere.
And is it better now?
Way better.
Okay. I don't know about the audience.
Yeah, I don't listen to any weird noises, so it's fine.
Okay. Sorry guys for the
where were we
technical
fetching
problems.
information from Firebase? Do you know, Ilyass?
To fetch the information, we need to invent the documentation because it's not available. I think
Weren't we doing it for
we
you?
used one on the leaderboard,
Core?
on the sidebar. Probably
We did?
it's, yeah, we did.
Component? No,
Yeah,
it's
it's on
just
the
blocked. Oh, there it
on the
is.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
got
on
the
the
must.
service.
You need
Okay.
to
So
have.
let me just copy this. And then user service. Okay. Let me just put here as a reference. Let's inject Firestore. Oh, my imports don't work. Auto completion. So
Let me import
let's
for you.
say our user collection is the collection Firestore user this, and then we have user observable equals to collection data user collection. Let's just use the default for now. Yeah, I think that's it.
This is going to be by ID, right?
Maybe that's the same thing. Yeah, let me put.
Yeah, for that one, I think it's gonna be the document ID, which we need to set from the authentication ID, because we need to retrieve the ID of the authenticated user and create a new document with the same ID.
Okay. Is this? Can you run the imports?
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if collection data is generic? Probably not.
Probably needed this here.
It is awesome.
Let's run with this one.
Oh, collection of user.
Let's see.
Oh no.
Leaderboard.
Wait. Collection document.
Collection, you need to put the Firestore there and
So I think we can maybe do this as as Firestore data converter. User, and then we don't need the pipe at all. So, but this is a collection. How do we get information for a specific user? Can you import Firestore?
I think you need to make a query. I don't know how to do this.
Taking a look.
Firestore. Can you import that type? Just want to see if that works.
No. In the other page, the leaderboard, we did this on the constructor. exactly the same thing.
So let me see in the document what does the public API exports?
It's the same imports.
Oh.
Add doc, get doc. I think it's get doc. User would not be collection data, but get doc. Can you import get doc?
But you will need the ID for the.
Yeah, we're gonna pass the ID.
As an input or from the route? Probably from the route. Update profile .id, something like this.
I don't know.
Okay, let's fix first the
reference.
Type in issues and then think of that later.
Document reference. What is document reference?
Can we do this on the constructor?
I want to find a cat doc example. There's only old stuff. No example for the new API.
For the get doc?
Yeah.
Should we read the API?
Reference cat doc.
What is the parameter type?
What if you try like this?
So get docs.
Probably it should take the user collection.
Get doc.
ID, something like this.
Maybe. I don't know. I
Uh,
don't know if you need the whole collection to do that.
I
Maybe you need to
saw
provide
this
the collection information.
from what I know, they started implementing Angular Fire, so it's going to follow the Firebase JavaScript API. In Firebase JavaScript API, we have this client cities reference. It's the collection, and then we specify doc and then set. I thought maybe it's gonna be the same thing here. You need to give it the collection and then the ID here. I don't know if we can do set. No, it's a promise.
It's a promise, yeah.
I sent an example in the chat. Maybe it will work.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the old API. So you're passing a reference as an ID, right? And
Yeah,
doc.
connection
When you
get.
run doc, you're setting the ID. So I think that's what we need. We need the ID once we log in, because that's the ID that we are going to use to either create the user data or fetch from the server, right? We could use the email or something else as an ID.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think
not working
email
like
is
this.
not. We could just pass the email to the user service and then get that information.
Don't we have already the ID?
What?
We do have the ID of the user, the connected one.
So when we update information, we will have.
But
right?
it's not working like this. Yeah, we need the ID, but it's not working. We need to figure it out how to make this work.
No, we don't need this. We could have something like a get user. That would be a function that would return an observable. And that function would return get dog. And we have the user ID as a string. User ID. And since I don't know if we can just use this as an observable, or we should be using from here maybe. We can.
If
We
it's
can
a
send.
promise, it's a promise. Why would you? Okay.
So I think this is probably an object then, partial user that we're looking for. What is the ID field called in Angular Firebase? Is it, what did we have here? Leaderboard. ID field, okay. So ID field. Of unknown of user. User. No, what? Okay. It's not what we wanted.
Yeah.
ID field would be the email actually, right? Let's just call it user ID, even though it's email. But document reference, what is that? Document reference. Ooh. I think we need to do something before calling getDoc. We need to create this document preference and then pass it as the method parameter.
Yeah, document reference refers to a document location in a Firestore database and can be used to write, read, or listen to the location. The document at the reference location may or may not exist. I think we need to use this document reference.
Yeah, so how there's probably a method that returns a new document reference.
Let's see this document change.
Oh, we could use the doc method inside the collection. Okay. So it would be like user collection dot doc. That should do it.
It's a type, but it's being used.
No, it doesn't exist.
That's so weird.
Momo,
Okay, there is some problem with the.
see. Fire 7, Angular Fire. So if you're talking about Firebase, then I don't know what version is Firebase. We just have Angular Fire, which includes Firebase. I think it's 9.8. Yep.
What about this?
But what?
Send in the chat an example. Maybe this will work.
Huh. Maybe that makes sense. It uses the doc data function, which looks like the new API. Let me just put it here. Let's see. Doc. There's the Firestore, and that would be user and an ID. Makes sense. And then return doc data. Oh, gosh. Huh, weird. Okay, let's import doc. Doc here.
Doc actually comes from Firebase Firestore.
You mean doc?
Yeah, but we're
Should
not
be here
using.
as well. Yeah, it is. So let's remove this. So our get user should be returning from it now.
Oh no, I mean
Observable.
doc comes from Firebase Firestore, but doc data comes from Angular Fire Firestore.
Okay. As document reference of user. As document reference of user. Let's just hack our way into typing it. Document reference. We don't use math. Okay, this makes sense now. So we have our get user. Let's see if that works.
I think the doc comes from a different library. From different.
I think that should work.
Okay.
Yeah, it is returning the correct type. We just had to force our document data to be of type user here, because this function, I think it's not generic. So if I do user here, it's not gonna work. Yeah, you see it. Unless I would do it here as well, and it doesn't work because yeah, this function is not. Maybe this could be wait, collection reference of document. Maybe as collection reference of user. Collection. Wonder what's the correct way to do this. Okay. No, it's still document data. No. Okay, it's working. Should be working. Now let's just try this. Where do we get our user information from? We have a login service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in here, we should be able to, wait, we could even get that login service here. So we don't need to provide that information for a service. So let's try this private login service. I don't know, is this a bad practice? Does anyone know if injecting services to services?
I don't work with Angular, so it seems okay to me.
Your voice is fine.
Hello,
They
could you
can't hear
trouble?
you. So let's say get current user. What should this be called? And I'm going to return login service. This dot login service dot. Can you import login service for me? Try to import from here. Okay, thank you. I wish that worked. User type. I'm going to take one. And then we're going to, I think, merge map. And we can run this. So we depend on, can we import take and import take and merge map. It's still showing us an error for me. I don't know why. Okay, it looks like it's working now. So we have this observable. Let's try to use it. User equals read-only user equals to this dot user service, which we will inject shortly, and get user constructor private user service with user service. Can you import the user service for me in user component? I think you're not following, but no problem. So it should be fetching data from user. Let's just create a ng container with a ngIf, and let's subscribe to the user async JSON. Let's take a look at it. Oops. So as user, and then we have user. Let's take a look at it. ngIf, we need common module. Get user. Okay. Get user does not have user ID now. And then so if the user triggers again, this this would mean this would be repeated. That's why I'm just going to take one and then merge map. Then actually I need the user data here. User ID, user dot, what is user? Okay, so user dot, let the autocomplete. It's taking some time. Wait a minute. Sometimes this takes so long that I just want to take a look at what user gives me. So what do you want to use? The email? Should we use the email as an ID? Okay. Okay. Email is also unique. You can't have two users with the same email. Okay. What is the field ID? If autocomplete works for you, you can try it, because I can't. For some reason, it's not working. Okay. Okay. Do you want to try it and run it? Oh, it's not importing. You just need to import common module. Then, yeah, it's working now. Should be working. We should see in the user component some user data, or we should get some error because the user data is not on our user collection. Yeah, we should. So it's returning null. I saw a null value somewhere. That's good. Means that is probably connecting. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, just put any data for your own ID. That's why I wanted to use email. It's easier to mark the email data if you don't need to.
But you can create a new record and set a specific ID for it, I think.
Yeah, create it in user instead of players.
User collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, what do we have in that user information? Should be an object string. What are you trying to do? It's still null. We're I don't know what ID we're passing on to the Firebase, but it's returning null.
Well, why don't we try to search first for an ID that we know that we have on Firebase by data? Did you see if
Yeah.
that part works?
Yeah, we can do that. It is called in the observable once it's subscribed to. In the user service get user function, it will return the user and then take, oh, maybe the first value is null. Let me filter null values out. User filter user equals null. Yeah, so if the first user is null, then or undefined, then it's always going to be doc data is always going to be null.
Oh, why don't you try passing an ID that we know that is present in Firebase, just to test?
Remove the take one. So it has the user ID. We just don't have any document with that ID.
Yeah. We probably need to register the user Firebase when he first logs in. Does that make sense?
We need to create one user in the Firebase
'Cause
with that ID,
yeah.
so you can test it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Nope, I think I created it in the players collection. I think so. Not sure.
Nice. So we do have user information. Now we need to, once we send that information, once we change the description and display name, we should call some method from Firestore to update that information. And we also should, once we get that information from the user observable in user component, we should add that to our form controls.
To update, it's probably like this. I sent it in the chat so you guys can take a look.
Yeah, update doc. Yeah, that works.
And to create, it's probably going to be like this.
Okay. Are you following me, Ilyass? Okay. Okay, so we're going to create a function method for update user. And we're going to do something very similar.
Totally didn't copy this example from the internet.
Definitely not. So instead of doc data, we're going to run update doc. Then we need to import update doc. Pocket. Okay. So this would be the user. Wait. Let's just call this user. That should have a user shape, and then just pass in the user. Yeah, it looks fine. But instead, we're not going to return this. We're going to subscribe to this. And in fact, we don't need the user observable here because since the component already has the user information, we could make it more simple and just get the use the user data. So that could be something like this. From actually just don't need to subscribe to this promise. Just run it. User dot I think we're using the wrong interface here. It's correct for this one, but not this one. Do we have a user model? Ilyass, do you know if we have a user model? Yeah, I'm just going to call it something else than user. I don't know.
Why do you always need to inject root?
So user has ID. It has description, and it has display name. Is that it? Or is it some other name? So this user, we should have a different name for this interface. Could be my user, whatever. Or we could just do this user. Can we do this actually? User as, yeah. Just want to rename this as Firebase user. Okay, it works. So this would be Firebase user. Now it makes sense. So user.id user. So we're just going to use this full user, and then in get user we could pass that responsibility to the component, the user component, and that would be more simple as well. Let's see the user component. The user component could get the user information and subscribe to it, and then pass that user ID onto the service. That we wouldn't need to make this rather complex observable. Okay. This would call this user service update user, and we would create our user, and we would create our user with description. Description would be this dot form group dot. Where's the autocomplete when you need it?
What's the problem now?
Okay,
I was
controls
figuring out the audio setting
dot
again.
description. And then we have display name is this dot form group dot controls dot display name. We still need the ID. Oh, wait, dot value. Okay.
Can we destructure this?
Why do we need that? We don't have some other user we're getting information from. We just need the ID now to ID, which we don't have here. And I'm thinking about what would be the ideal way to get the current ID. Maybe the parent component could pass that down to the user component as an input.
What's the problem now? I'm sorry, I was figuring out the
No, just
audio
how to
setting.
get the ID.
The ID of the user.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
wanted this out of the service so the service doesn't get a complex observable. So maybe the component could be aware of the ID it's working with. And then we just need to pass that ID down to the service.
Why not using the router ID, like putting the ID on the route when navigating? We just need the authenticated one on the login components and then navigate to update user/ID and retrieve the ID on update user.
Well,
On
it's
user.
still an observable, right?
Yeah.
That's the issue, I think.
What's the problem with observable?
Yeah, didn't want to do stuff like this.
Like not
Would be much more simple if we just did that, and as in update user.
to update the user. Okay, dog.
Right?
Yeah, so you need the ID.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm thinking what would be the ideal way to provide that ID to user component.
Maybe okay. Maybe
We have
fetching.
that information in our user data here, right?
Yeah.
So we could do
Maybe
as
fetching the user and using the ID field ID.
No, that's not what I'm thinking. So what if we do this as user, and then we pass on the user dot ID magic UAD on update ID string. Then we have ID, and that should work. As user, sorry, that is ID, not UAD. Should work now, I think. Do you want to try it?
Okay. Let's see. It should update. Oh, it's updating.
Nice.
Yeah,
Magic.
magic happening. We're updating and seeing the result at the same time.
Really cool. And we're not even manually fetching information from Firebase. It's handling everything for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It understands this ID was created, and since we subscribed to that value, I think it sends that information that this was updated, and it fetches new information for it. I don't know how it works, but it does.
Yeah.
Good magic.
Okay. Do you think, guys, we need to add something, or we can wrap?
I don't know. Do you want to move forward with anything else? How about let's just commit this and publish this for now, and then
Okay.
let me see if there's something we can do.
Are you doing some changes? Are you
Sorry,
changing
what?
something? Are you changing something?
No, I'm just looking at the application.
Okay. So I'm gonna commit and then deploy.
Oh, okay. So we actually need now a feature in the backend when the user logs in. If we don't have a user data
We
for
should add
that
that
user, we should
document for
add
it.
that automatically to our
Mm-hmm.
database. So when the user logs in, it's able to fetch that data from the server, because I'm logging in at the moment, and it doesn't show me anything.
But we're not gonna have a backend, right?
What?
But we're not going to have a backend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that on the front.
Can you do that in Firebase though?
Mm,
Do
I
what?
don't.
Like when log in, see if the document already exists. If not, create a new one, an empty one.
Yep.
I think we can do that on the login service. No? Uh, let's see. Okay, on login,
I think that's
I
very
think
safe. You can
we
start creating users with random IDs in the front end. That's weird. Uh,
should not be random IDs. Should use the ID from here.
yeah, but if you allow the front end to do that, then they can inject whatever ID they want,
Uh,
right?
how?
I
Like
mean,
a hacker?
if
But
you're
isn't.
concerned about security, you shouldn't do this in the front end.
But don't we get the ID when the user logs in, and
Yeah.
only because users can log in?
We do, but someone with knowledge would be able to use the API in his favor to
But we don't have an API.
what?
Like use the
Firebase does.
credentials we have in on
So at the
environment,
moment,
for
the user
example.
can change anything in the database, right?
Yeah.
Later, we are going to need to add that the backend blocks some stuff and blocks the users, prevents the users from changing things in the database, and we don't want users creating new users, right?
Yeah. I think to
So
do
that's why I
that,
think this shouldn't be done in the front end, because if you do, then you would need some logic in the backend to know that is this user creating a database for a data, not a database, a data, a record in a
Document.
collection that's related to himself, or is it trying to change or create some other ID? We would need that security layer in the backend anyway. Otherwise, users can just change data from whatever user they want.
I think you can use Cloud Firestore rules for that. I don't know how they work, but I know that they exist. You can give the access of read and write to someone or something. We can have a look at this later. I don't know how to set up this.
Okay, so for now, do you want to create a new document if the user logs in and it has a null value? Is that it?
Yeah, we can do something like this from sign in with pop-up.
Right.
Uh,
You don't need this, do you? This is sign in. It's signed in. We need to, once the user actually in the user service, wait, the user service.
yeah, when he's signing in, if it's
No,
six,
it will always return information when the user signs in.
yeah,
What I'm thinking is
and then
if the user
we will have to
joins,
check.
it gets its own information from the collection and nothing returns, then you're going to manually add that to the collection. So it would be something like, are you following me?
Not
But
really.
why not, Dr. Sinyan?
Yeah, I'm still
Okay, so
thinking.
take a look at the user service.
Mm-hmm.
And here is where you're getting information from the user collection. And in
Mm-hmm.
here is where you want to decide if I want to add a new user or not.
I think we need to do that on the login.
So every time you log in, you're gonna.
No, it's not every time. We have this user auth state. When he's logged in, user observable will have the state of the user, of the logged in user, like this, and will not show, we will not have
ID.
the login button. When we will have the login button and the user click on login, we can listen to this sign in with pop-up promise and then subscribe to it, check the result. I don't know if it does give the user as, yeah, user credential as a result. Check the
No,
ID if it exists on the document collection of users. And then
so you
if it
would
does
need
not,
to get more. You would need to subscribe again to the user information.
to get, to verify if it does exist or not.
Yeah, but what if the user never enters the user screen, the profile screen? You're creating a new well, you still need to create that, but yeah. Someone's asking, is this an interview? No, it's not an interview. We're just creating an internal application for fun. Yeah. So okay, so if we're going to add that into the login,
Probably this, for a first version, it can work without loading the user, because we do trigger this method only when the user is not logged in. I don't know if there is some method here or in user service to check if a document exists or not.
so you would need to use the user service to get user. You can use the get user function to get a new observable and then subscribe to that.
Yeah.
When do you get user data exactly?
In the user component.
In the
But in
user,
login, you could do something like this, like 5.
it's in the user component, but when in specific? When the
When
user accesses his
the
profile or what?
yeah, in profile, the template is going to subscribe to the observable. So we could do something like this, tap, or rather merge map user. And then we're going to run this dot user service dot get user dot UID, and then you can pipe and tap to the whatever user you received. And then in here, if you don't have a user, if user, you would do something like this dot user service dot add user. And then that user would use the user dot, so actually, let's change this, Firebase user. So you would use the Firebase user UID. Does it make sense? You'd have to private user service. So inject user service and then import and create the add user method. ID is a string, and then we need to find out what is the function to add a document. Add doc, probably.
Let's see the imports. If we have add.
I think it's the one I sent you, add doc.
Yeah, we have
Then
an add doc.
you pass the collection and you pass the new document.
Okay, so add doc. This user collection. If we don't want to set up description and anything. We just don't provide that information, right? Just ID. Okay. I think that would be it. I'm getting a ton of errors. Ilyass, please chime in.
Yeah.
This is working.
You can return this, return the newly created user show.
We're just going to run. This is a promise, and this is going to update every observable that. So it's going to update the user collection automatically, I guess.
Even better.
Okay, let's see. What's going on here?
Maybe there's an extra
Yeah.
parenthesis somewhere. Where's my?
Or we
Yeah,
should
there
add
it is.
one here.
No, it's an extra one. Wait.
Okay.
There's an extra one here. Yeah.
We needed to add one.
Remove one.
Okay.
And now we need to update login service and import.
Come on. Come on, import.
Import all the things. Let's see who's faster.
Yeah. Only you.
Firebase user.
User credential.
Firebase user credential.
I
Get
think
user
you should
credential.
do this.
Okay, so let's just call this credential. Credentials.user.uad.
That's cool. Modifying at the same time.
Yeah.
What's here? Unsuitable injection token for parameter user service. Why? Is this injectable?
Oh, you need to import.
We need to
user
import.
service.
Come on.
Yeah. Maybe this is possible. Wait, get user. Oh, we don't need to provide. So that's what I was talking about. There's no need to provide it here. Okay. Not sure this will work, but should.
We have some errors. Let's see.
I'm not seeing any error.
Circular dependency injection. Yeah, probably we are injecting here user service, and here
User service depends
it's
on
just
login service.
login service. Yeah.
Yeah. Yay.
How
can
we fix this?
So what we can do is
Make the logic on the user side, not on the login.
So whatever, if some component is listening to user when the user logs in, and then it checks if that exists, then call user service, and then would just do this whole logic inside the pipe we created would be somewhere else.
Can we do
just
some
remove
quick fix
users.
now to just test if it's working?
Yeah, in a bit.
Probably the forward something. I believe there is
So
some.
I would, let's see who's using user observable. We have login component. and then login component can have the pipe method. So if you go to login component, it can inject the chat component as well. The user service. User service. Okay, now we just need to import everything. Merge tab from actions. And then we don't have credentials. It's user, I think. User Firebase. Firebase. Hey, it just disconnected for some reason.
Okay. Let me see.
It's joining now.
Joining. Okay.
Okay, it joined. Where was I? Login component. So Firebase user, Firebase user. I guess it's possibly no. That's fine. And we don't, if not user, if Firebase user and not user. Right. Just need to import the user service now. Can you do it?
At the imports.
Yeah. Okay, now the login component should be doing that.
Okay.
Because it's always subscribing to this observable. Oh, and we must
Need
not
to
merge now.
update.
Wait. Let me remove this from here. And we're going to implement on init. And G on init. So we're going to run this .user 5. We're going to subscribe, and we don't care about destroying this because the login component is always going to be there. So this should be fun. Implements on init. Can you import on init? Is it from core, Angular core?
Yeah.
Okay.
We import it too.
Okay, so we're creating a new observable that won't conflict with what we are returning the template. So the whole purpose of this observable that we're subscribing to on init for the login component is to
login new user.
Find out is there a user on the user service, and if so,
I'm gonna use incognito.
You might even make it better by
oops.
If Firebase user to return the service. And then we delete this. And then let's make Mark happy if not Firebase user.
Why?
because he likes the exit early pattern. And then I'm just going to return a
Start with the problem.
observable. Can I return undefined? Is that okay? No. Okay, so just an empty observable. Oh, thank you. So if there's no Firebase user, just return an empty observable, and if there is one, we check the user service.
Okay. Let's test this on incognito. I think I need to add some other email. Okay, let's see if it did. It's added a new user.
So if you click on the component, it should, well, you could just have clicked on the component, because if it doesn't work, then the component is not going to load. It could be one of those with an empty ID.
Let's check the where is it? I think this one with 3 at the end.
I don't think it worked.
This one, I think it worked. No?
It did?
Yeah. Is it the ID? This is the ID, no? No, it's not.
It's not the same?
No. Should start with
Okay.
Z and end with 3.
Yeah, let's see the let's take a look at the console to see if that's working. What happens if, yeah.
Why when I click it does not go?
Let's add some logs to it. Maybe we don't have user. Let's see.
Yeah, we don't have the user, that's why.
Or maybe that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Console log user. So I'm printing Firebase user and then user. Okay. Can you try that again?
Okay. We should use the incognito again.
Where would one look at to hire someone to write cryptocurrency code in the US?
Sorry?
So there's a question in the chat. I have no idea. Crypto is very new. I don't think there are a lot of developers out there that know, but I know there are languages that are focused on crypto.
I'll try to log in with this account.
AJ is asking, what did you do, Ilyass, to get the computer usage specs on your top bar?
Oh, I think it's an open source project. Forgot the name of it.
Open the console, please, before logging in. No, the console.
It does get fetch the user, but
Okay.
the problem in the
Firebase user.
yeah.
So we get undefined user. That's fine. Let me check if we run the add user function. User service.
It's Excel stat. I'm gonna send the link to for the stats on the top bar macOS.
Okay, so we should have a log in our console that would print out the add user string and the ID we're trying to add to this one.
Okay, should do this again.
Yeah, let's try it.
Let's remove this one and go here, localhost. Then log in, use this account. Need to, yes, it's me. It's still undefined.
So we did run the user service function. Our observable is working as intended. It's just the add doc is for some reason not working. Maybe we need to call ID what is the ID field? Maybe that's what we need to do. So let's run it again and see what it does. You don't need to log in again.
Okay, let's see. No, but we need to log in again so he can create the user on Firestore.
No, there's no need. So we ran add user again on refresh because there's no user in the store, so it tries to run again.
Oh, okay.
So that's the ID it's trying to add. Maybe we're doing something wrong. Oh, user is still undefined.
Wait a minute. What is this? I see a lot of new documents, but it's not
we
with
always
the correct
get the
ID.
We always get the whole collection.
Sorry?
We always fetch the whole collection.
Yeah, but why it's creating all this document with the incorrect ID, the wrong ID? That's weird.
Wait, get user. Yeah, let's add a ID. Let's add an ID here. Just going to create an if statement. Just want to try something. If ID, just return this. Oh. ID. Okay. Okay. That should be better. And then in our login component, we're going to use the get user firebase user.id. QID. Still get undefined. Same behavior. I don't know why the add doc is not working.
Yeah. I think we can wrap here. We'll investigate this later.
Okay.
We'll
Okay, so
need
for
to fix
next
this.
stream, we need to fix this.
Yeah. For next stream, we need to fix this update. Probably investigate some better approach to do this.
Yeah, as I said, I think the backend should do it.
Yeah. If you can trust Firebase, it's fine. You can trust that the logic they have inside will not have some breaches or something. But in terms of security in general, you can't trust anyone. So yeah, probably a backend should do that, can do that. I don't know if this makes any sense.
Trust issues.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap this. See you guys in the next stream. We'll continue to investigate this update profile problem. And have a good night or day or evening or morning or whatever. Bye.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.